All right, sweet. I think we're live. We should be good to go. Welcome.
Mm-hmm.
It is the full three best players, most handsome looking players joining us tonight. um, what's it called? Dean's out because he has like random locals on Friday now or something. Is that's what he said, right, Nico?
Yeah, something along that lines.
Oh, perfect.
I think I don't know if it's a real locals or if he's just like playing with just a small group of his friends somewhere.
Yeah, it might. Well, I mean, it might be real because I know he had trouble like getting his locals to start back up, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, and then Jason is missing in action as always. Wait, where'd you get that bus emote? What the heck?
It's a train, man.
Or
I
a
heard
train?
the
That's
train
what I
go.
meant. You're right.
Yeah. Train 2. Train 2's in chat.
Jason is dead. God brave. Exactly. Um, so we have a few topics to talk about. I think the major one is we're going to talk a little bit on like our afterthoughts of AnimEvo and like how to improve it and like the reception the community gave it. But I think the few other things we have a couple like very small like news like card reveal related stuff for Bushiroad English and JP. And then I have a small topic that came up recently. There was like a little bit of a discussion on it on one of the, I think is the card games Discord.
Yeah.
I figured we'd talk about it here a little bit too. And then I guess we'll close it out with the big meme going around right now, started by Yue. He brought up the that Aqua level 3 early play is like $80 in English for no reason.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's
What?
scarier is they're selling. It's not even
Yeah.
static.
Oh my gosh, that's insane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I guess we'll just jump right into it. I'm not sure how. We'll probably. I just assume this cast is going to be like an hour and a half at most today. But we'll just jump into the first thing. Is we need to congratulate Bushiroad, Bushiroad C, I guess, right? Or
Yeah, but you see.
yeah, Memory Snow has 0 erratas as far as I'm aware of. You guys
0.
haven't seen anything, right?
Connor reported no errata.
No erratas.
Very early. So, or at least from his first pass, no errata.
And that's really good because I mean,
Trust him.
like what we talked about on here, we told people that they should like complain to Bushiroad and stuff. And I don't know if anyone ended up sending emails or anything in, but then Bushiroad themselves made that whole post and like apology about how they dropped the ball on basically like every set having like 20 erratas or whatever, right? So we finally got a set that has no erratas in it. So hopefully this is like a really good sign going forward that maybe we're gonna have 0 to 1 erratas in the next few sets. Moving
Let's
forward.
hope so.
Yeah. I mean,
Anything's better than like the amount of erratas Fujimi had.
yeah.
Mhm.
I just-
Well, that's what set everything off, right? Fujimi errata.
Yeah.
Fujimi
Yeah,
erratas were the
pretty
worst
bad.
ones.
Yeah. But hopefully, yeah, moving forward, it's they clean it up a lot better and everything like that. And I hope that like this isn't just like some kind of fluke and it continues to be this way, because it'd be really shitty if like we're congratulating them now for having like doing a good job on this one, obviously, because no erratas, and then the very next set that releases just has like 20 erratas in it, and you're like, oh god, why?
Mm.
Oh shoot, did I fuck this up? Oh no. Oh no, I did. How did I close this?
Oh, what happened, dude?
Oh no, nothing. Luckily, it doesn't push through to the live thing.
Oh, okay.
All right, good.
Yeah, so we're safe for now. But yeah, looking forward to how they handle things in the future. I hope it just continues to be good and like we get like 0 to no erratas, or 0 to 1 erratas or something like that. Let's see.
The other thing they're doing really good is with Mob, they started out with like an RR finisher that like got people talking, as
Yeah.
opposed to like revealing nothing that like no one cared about at all. Which has been really good because Adventure Time they started off pretty slow and then they ramped up really quick. But with Mob they were like out of the gate, let's show some good stuff.
Yeah,
Get people excited.
It seems like they finally decided to take notes from their Japanese counterparts to where you show off your really, really cool stuff first, you get excited about the set, as opposed to be like, yo, guys, we got this apples combo.
What
Yeah,
was it?
man.
Was it Dean or was it one of you guys or something that brought up the like, hey, actually these little articles that they keep posting on the main website when they reveal these cards,
That was
the
me.
person, oh
Yeah.
yeah, the person actually sounds like they play the game, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool to like actually see that and stuff. But yeah, like you guys said, the spoils have been pretty great. I wonder if that's due in part with the fact that like kind of all of the sets are releasing really soon, so they, because a
Yeah,
lot of times they,
everything's
yeah, because
real fast.
a lot of before they would announce sets like early in the year, but the set wouldn't come out to like July or something, and so like they would like spoil a card and then like for like the next like 4 months or something, like once a day, and they're like, here's a bunch of commons and stuff. So I'm
Hmm.
wondering if maybe the release date push kind of forces them to like have good reveals early on. But either way, it's pretty good.
Hmm.
But yeah, let's see here. The only other thing really Bushiroad news wise, at least for Weiss, is the SMP card reveals today, the summer pocket reveals. I assume you guys are excited for that since you both.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
That was
That's
like
pretty good. It's
that
a
was like
nice little
8 a.m. You were firing off with that. I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean it's burn 1 3 times or something like that?
present.
Card looks crazy.
Yeah, it was pretty funny too, because in the beginning I didn't even notice the level 3 was only one soul. I just assumed it was two, and
Hmm.
then you pointed out that it was one. Um, Wait, what did I do with? I thought I had the list here. But so for those that haven't seen or read the review, or not reviews, the reveals, the major one is the level 3. What girl was it again?
Shiki.
Oh yeah, the level 3 Shiki. It's a climax combo with choice. It's on attack. If the card itself has 3 or less soul, when it attacks, you can pay cost, which is 1. And then when this card deals damage during its attack, you can choose to do burn ones equal to the number of soul instead of just doing the attack itself. So you say, for example, you attack, it has 3 soul, you pay 1, and then activate the effect, and then you trigger and like trigger a double soul. Now the card itself has 5 soul, so you can choose to burn 5 or burn 1 5 times instead of swinging in for 5. So the card is going to be like really, really strong to close out games for sure, right? And in some cases, like you could high roll into like really weird scenarios like that, right?
Hmm.
Oh, I think it also depends on because I think Summer Pockets was doing fairly okay on the top end side. It's I know me and Carmen have been talking about it, and I think he preaches this a lot. The main problem with SMP right now is like the level 1, just because like with the advent of Data Live especially, Shiroha just doesn't really cut it anymore. It's
Yeah.
like you drop the Shiroha, you have this like 2 or 3 card hand, you're hoping your board doesn't get answered, and Data Live just says my little Shido, and you're just like,
Mhm.
but why?
Even before that, Shiroha was like sort of on her way out. It's always very explosive, but if your opponent can answer even one of them, say you resolve double, the most normal use case, losing even one of them puts you behind so far. You have to ride those out for multiple turns to sort of regain your hand, rebuild.
Yeah.
But now with
Considering you also don't even run any real like plussing triggers because your trigger spread there is win standby.
Mhm. So yeah, if we can get a better level 1 combo, this is really cool. It's really interesting, and it's on a good trigger. And the other card, the Umi they revealed, is super interesting too.
What was the name again?
It's gives
Oh, the counter
1,000.
one, right?
Yeah, it
Yes.
makes every character in your hand a 2K counter, which is really funny. And it has like on reverse, pay 2, burn 1. Really interesting, silly card.
Mhm.
But this is really cool. But I was more so hoping for a like double rare, like level 1 combo that we could look at. Like it can be super simple. It just has to be something that's not Shiroha.
Yeah, maybe something that's like not interactive-y or something, or just a really easy combo to loot, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, they might consider just printing extra tools to like maybe try to push the Kamome combo further or something like that.
Yeah.
Which
Something
was the
like that.
combo? Is the green one I was talking about, the gold bar?
Yeah, it's 7/5 just on attack with the gold bar, and it's like you look at 2, your opponent chooses a character to put into your hand.
The big thing that I think we'll see actually because of how the actual visual novel is only time will really get any support because Umi's getting her own, like, got her own route, right? So,
Yeah.
like, we'll see maybe 1 or 2 cards for the original cast, but it's gonna mostly be new characters. So,
Well, time and I think green is probably whoever the heck Tsumugi's like little thing is. Because
Boobs, Shizuka, or whoever.
whatever her name is, because I know she got her own route in Reflection Blue. So the whole Tsumugi package might also be seeing extra support there.
That'd be interesting, because it's like it's almost there, Tsumugi package. But yeah, literally anything for the mid game to either
to make the best claw kicker with with the gun girl, dude.
yeah, with her, yeah. But I'm excited that the reveals are definitely. It wasn't personally what I would like to have seen first, but the cards were pretty fun to look at. Everybody was talking about them too, which I think is the most important thing when see like first reveal, sort of going off the mob thing. If it gets people talking in the discords about like, oh, well, we could do this or we could do that, or the math on this is that, and how that stacks up, because people were comparing it to Gil and stuff like that from FGO. I think as long as that sort of discussion is going, good thing. So,
I mean, that kind of leads back again into the fact that, hey, if you reveal good cards and get people excited, it just helps your sales and stuff like that. So, yeah.
It's
I mean,
very
like
important.
these I mean, kind of talking about that again is like these cards were revealed without any art or anything. We just got the text and what what the character
text.
like what character it was, not even the character name, and just the text that's on the card. So, yeah.
And we got what climax it went with,
Oh yeah,
which is always important. Yeah.
One thing to note too about that level 3 that turns all your characters into 2K counters in hand. I think Randall on Facebook pointed out that like if you use a 2K counter is normally like 1K power backup plus give a battling character 1K if you use the backup. So if you use that card, you can choose either give him 1K or give it 2K. So you give it 2K and then you get an extra 1,000 on top of that. So it turns your 2K counters to 103K backups.
Dude, okay, is that how it works?
Yeah, because both texts are on the card, so you just choose which one to use. So you just use the 2K power pump one, and then the other effect activates because you use the backup effect.
Yeah.
So then it's a 3K counter, which is kind of interesting.
Wow. So you just get a bunch of costless 3K counters for their characters. Yeah. That's really cool. What I think is most cool about these reveals is both of them, like the Umi and the Shiki, are both like sort of new design space where we've never had a card that turns cards in your hand into backups before. And we've never had a finisher that directly converts the soul of the card attacking into something else. Right now, it's just burns for 1 X number of times, where X is the soul that you have. But in the future, it could do anything. You know, so it shows that they're willing to like
experiment
convert. Yeah, like take soul from the attack and like convert it into some other thing. Right now, it's just damage, which is like pretty safe and kind of boring. But like that conversion is new design space. So that's really cool. Down with that.
Yeah. Oh, wait. Kevin in chat also pointed out that Leafa counters and stuff become like costless counters now. That also do the Leafa effect, right? That's kind of interesting as well.
Yeah, because the Leafa effect's separate from the actual backup itself.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Oh, so you could use a sack counter or something, like any counter effect, right?
Yeah.
You could resolve the costless effect, right?
Yeah.
So they would just cost one less.
Cost one less, yeah.
Yeah, they'd cost 1 less, you know?
So, like, in Summer Pockets, it would be pay 2 sack a character.
Yeah, as opposed to pay 1.
I wonder
it's just interesting.
I wonder if there's any old cards that, like, have weird effects attached to them that cost, and they put all the cost into the character cost, so when you use the backup, say you'd have to pay 2, but now you can pay 0 because of this effect. Like, if they ever print this in, like, DC or something, I assume there's some card out there like that would, like, make it busted, but... Yeah. It's kind of interesting that, like, it just, like undercosts certain effects before that usually are tied to the, like, pay 1 effect of a backup.
It's just cool to see this kind of design as opposed to, like, DAO design, where it's, like, DAO design is, like, let's push it, you know? And this is just, like, let's do a cool thing.
Yeah.
So, much healthier. Cooler.
Because Because we already know SMP is the best deck, right? Especially online. If you had
Best deck
SMP, you would have won
online.
the event, right, Carmen?
Yeah,
Should
yeah,
have showed
yeah.
up.
I would have had a round 1 opponent if I played SMP. I wouldn't have got that low roll. Low roll before I even play someone.
Getting bubbled by not having a round 1 opponent because you got the buy or whatever.
Yeah,
Outplayed.
Outplayed, misplay.
All right.
You know,
I think that's it for Bushiroad news and like Weiss related news, right? There's nothing else going on. I think we didn't see anything.
Nothing for Bushiroad. Usually they're really good about dropping some really spicy topics to talk about on Fridays, but I guess
they dropping the ball.
Can't have that luck today. Yeah.
Unfortunate. Have you guys been keeping track of like the DC reveals at all? The Carnival reveals? I haven't really, because it's never been a set
It's Circus, sir.
Or Circus, sorry.
Yeah.
I've never been super invested in like the Circus stuff, so I haven't been keeping track. I haven't even been keeping track of like the what's it, Gotobon or whatever.
Oh, Quint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything there worth talking about? I don't know if you guys have been keeping up with it at all. I just ignore it, and I think someone will tell me if it's broken.
Yeah. I wish Jason was here because
I think
he's
Jason
been following it. Yeah.
I guess
it's definitely like it's got so many cards. It has like what he was saying when I talked to him about it briefly is he was saying it has everything that it needs to be a competent set. But whether it can like break out will be yet to be seen. So interested to see what people do with it. Set's got a fucking bazillion cards. I played against like a trial deck today, and they had like normal cards. It was like a 4K clean cut and shit, and I was like, what's going on? So I'm sure someone will figure something out.
I mean, yeah, we were already seeing like legitimate decks out of 5 trial decks, so it's like the set has 2 boosters already printed for itself.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what like the booster stuff has in store.
Yeah.
I wonder if the booster is going to be less on having like all the same girl and more on being able to mix some stuff around a little bit. But I guess we'll see once they release more on it.
All of them have like plenty of cards that can be the key off Quint's trait, which is the common trait. The only character that doesn't have Quint's trait is the guy, Futuro. He doesn't have it. So like, and he doesn't have very many cards. So you can mix a lot of things. There are definitely like waifu cards. Like I remember seeing the Nino, which is like a early play hand on core healer, and it only works if you have a full board of Nino. So like there are some payoff cards for being waifu, but it's not everything.
Yeah. All right. So the first major topic I want to bring up, let me bring up this picture really quick. This was something that kind of got thrown around on the card game Discord. I don't know if it was talked about anywhere else. Let me find it. So there's this Indonesian group of Weiss players. I think they're like main group out of Indonesia. Wherever they're from is called AG3. Here it is. I have it on stream. Let me just blow it up really quick. They posted this on Twitter because they do like tournament reports kind of, right, and say who won the event and stuff, and they put out stats like this. But the major thing that came up in the Discord and which sparked a discussion was the fact that under, let's see, deck types here, number 1, they have stuff listed as like aggro or undefined or combo decks or endurance decks or tempo decks or control decks, right? And then this entire discussion popped out of this based on like what do these words actually mean in Weiss? So I'm interested to like kind of discuss between us, because I had a little bit of a discussion about it in card game Discord with Patty Wagon and like a couple other people. I think Wibbs was there and stuff. Personally, when it comes to Weiss, for me, like I think there are kind of like deck archetypes sort of like this, like how you would find like in Magic, like for example, usually the 3 archetypes are like aggro, mid-range, and control archetype decks. But it doesn't transition very well into Weiss because of how the game is just generally played. I think there are decks that are like quote-unquote aggro decks. I think there are decks that are like mid-rangey, and then there are decks that are like combo decks or like control decks in Weiss. But what do you guys think about that?
I don't think the specific terms from like Magic, Hearthstone, and all those other card games don't really translate into this very well. So like, for me, when you're saying like tempo, I'm whenever I hear like tempo, I think about like board state and like the flow of the game. I don't think about like, a tempo deck, if that makes sense. Same with control. To me, control is a little too vague of a term in Weiss. I guess the most I could equate it to would be something along the lines of perhaps like 8 standby, or a deck that just mainly relies on being like, I am holding board, you cannot do anything.
Yeah. So like this is I guess I should explain how I like kind of define certain things. So I think there are like certain decks in Weiss that are built to be aggressive. Things like, for example, my choice Pants Dow list is like built to be like literally turn 1 you can slam 3 cards in a climax and you'll be fine all game type of things. And then the top end is like a really aggressive push for damage is how I see it. And we're just like looping combos and trying to like slam 2 soul beaters nonstop on the board. Then I think there are other decks that can be mid-rangey, and when I say mid-rangey, I mean like they get value out of cheating big things out early. So like 8 standby lists, in my opinion, are like mid-range type of decks where like we're gonna play for the board more than anything, and we're gonna slam down like these really big cards that are like efficient because we paid nothing for them, and like deal damage that way. And then like the control deck usually in my eyes are like decks that are basically spamming heal and trying to like prolong the game as long as possible. Do you guys kind of agree with like maybe that assessment if we were to actually like care about breaking down decks in like these 3 archetypes?
I disagree with like, so for me, when I think control, I think of decks that like really value fighting for board, honestly. That's what I think of when it comes to control, because usually those decks are denying your opponent the ability to like properly like play the game, keep their own board and all that.
In my head,
especially if their opponent like relies on getting reverses and stuff for their combos.
I think that's like a fair argument, but I think also in my head I see control more of like the things that we've developed nowadays, which is like neg soul walls, money counter, and stuff like that, just that negate attacks.
Oh yeah,
and you kind of prolong the game that way more than like just winning the field. And then I guess, what do you think, Carmen?
Well, I mean, like, even bringing that up, things like money counter, like when you're talking about like money counter in a deck that feels like controlling or trying to shut down your opponent some way, would you consider like things like bar book, like English Sal to be a control deck? And like that's a deck that very often goes for like 2-turn kills with things like Leaf of Clock Kicker, Money Counter, things like that. But it doesn't play the rest of the game that way. I would say the rest of the game plays more, I guess, more normal for a Weiss game. But if you like you compared it to something else, I guess it's more mid-rangey. But it's kind of on the faster end.
So that's actually kind of leads into something else I wanted to touch up on towards the end of it too, is like how I think there are decks that have main game plans. That's like how I kind of describe like 8 standby lists are mid-range decks basically and stuff like that. But every Weiss deck itself, depending on the top end, it has a completely different top end like decision there. So some decks might be like very aggro, but their top end can be very control-y by like denying soul all the time, and that's how they like cheese out the game and stuff like that. I think they're just like kind of like two different like instances in the game of where like depending what your deck can do, like kind of defines what your deck does, right? And not necessarily just because you have a really aggressive top end doesn't necessarily mean your deck has to be like an aggro deck. It could still be like a mid-range deck or a control deck or something like that, right? What do you think about that?
I can agree to a point, I think that, and like you had up the thing up on screen, and what I really actually liked wasn't so much the first column, because I kind of agree with Nico that like the names themselves don't apply as much, like because of how like fluid the game can be. I really like the second column where it had terms like endurance or like aggression and things like that. And I briefly tried to bring it up when the discussion was going on, but chat was moving so fast, things were getting thrown out left and right. But I was like, "Have you ever seen like what do they call it? Like the it's the same kind of graphs they put like Pokemon stats.
Right? Like the stat graph, like the Pentagon or whatever, and you just go out to different.
And I was like, I think that it would be a lot more meaningful if we put decks on like that sort of like spectrum where they had like points going out towards were like endurance, like heavy compression, like something like anti-strategies, things like money kind of like anti-damage, things like that. And like things that like did like maybe define 4 to 5, would have to be like 5 or 6, closer to that, like qualities that a Weiss deck can have, and then sort of like slide it in certain direction. On that. Yeah, because like I feel like every deck, I mean, like if you see the opportunity to go for like something like Tri-Field Clean Cut, like aggressive things like that, even in a deck like, I mean, like even like ReZero, right, or something like that. ReZero, like English ReZero, like red, blue, yellow ReZero, is like a really good example of that. Like you make those pushes, like you Ricky Clean Cut, whatever, you push damage, you know, because that's the right play to do. But ReZero at the other end of the deck is like a very endurance-based, grindy. I'm gonna compress with Feld. I'm gonna compress with Rem. I'm gonna live forever. You're never gonna.
I have tap counters to deny your attacks, and
exactly like. They have the anti and the like endurance part at the top, but at the other part of the game, it's like I got a Moguro, I'm pushing damage. I got Ricky, I got Clean Cut, I can Tri-Field you, you know. So it's like two very different game plans in the same deck, which is why like I don't know, feels weird to just call something just aggro, just tempo, just control to me. So I really like the that sort of delineation, I guess, between like mid game, early to mid game, and end game, because depending on what you're running, the whole deck can change.
Could be different, yeah. I think that kind of something I want to bring up too about that is like you pointed out how there's like like an endurance deck or like an aggressor deck and stuff like that. In like in the Japanese community, for the most part, as from my understanding of the stuff I read online, most decks are generally like described that way in Japanese already. Kind of like I've brought this up in the discussion on Discord too, is like I think they're theoretically really there's only two types of decks in Weiss. There's the endurance deck, which is I'm trying to outlast my opponent, I'm trying to heal, I'm trying to block damage and like get super compressed. That's my main game plan. And then there's the decks that are trying to be the aggressors, where they're like I'm either trying to win the board constantly or like slam a global soul climax every turn and push like for like a very aggressive game plans, like we said, like Tri-Field turn 2 or turn 2 or whatever with like Clean Cut and all that stuff, or like we want the runner early on for the extra attack early on to push the extra damage and things like that. That's how I kind of normally see how Weiss is. But I think the biggest issue with what you were saying earlier about having like the stat block or whatever is I think I agree 100% that like if we had that all the time, that'd be the best way to represent it. But I think when I hand someone a deck, I want to be able to be like, hey, this is like a mid-range deck, so you're gonna fight for board the entire time, or this is an aggro deck, so you're just gonna drop every weenie you have in your hand until you win the game. You know,
that was a big part of that discussion too, right? It's hard to hand someone something and say this is how you play it because we don't have terms for it, right? Where it's more so, here's the deck, figure it out. Like, you know, you're gonna have to figure out the lines for this deck and this set with this combo at this level.
Man, like, has Dean ever handed you a deck, dude? That is actually the hardest thing you could possibly imagine.
I don't think there are classifications that can describe.
I just remember Dean handing Kit like some crazy kimono list, and Kit was like, "Wait, you only play one copy of this card?" And Dean's like, "Yeah, only play one copy of it. You only need one."
Those are some of the most fun locals when Dean's like, look at this pile of cards I brought Kit played today instead of whatever you were playing. I'm like, okay, sure. Like, we brought 4-color kimono and I like didn't even look at the list, just shuffled and started playing, and I got second that tournament. And the reason I lost was because I didn't know he only played a certain card of, like you said, a 1-of or something. I just assumed there was like 3 of them in the deck. And then when I went to search for it, I was like, oh, it's in stock, I'm fucked. But yeah, try to not get off track here. One interesting thing too I want to bring up. I guess I'll bring up the list again just so everyone can visually see this. Where do I save this picture? I'm an idiot for not like putting this on the stream. But one thing here it is. So like on this list too here, I think one thing to note too is like this game, be it you play it in Japanese or English, it's a global game, and each community for the most part, they're not all going to have the same terminology. So, like, for example here, like the Fantasia deck, it's an 8 standby deck listed here, right? But they listed it as aggro. But when I was talking with Paddy Wagon and Yarbacher, Yara Blocker and I had the same opinion about 8 Standby Fantasia Bunko. We don't think that deck is an aggro deck at all. It's, if anything, it's a control/endurance deck in our eyes, because of how the general game plan is. Yes, we might be cheating big things on the board, but it doesn't mean we're necessarily an aggro deck. When we think aggressive decks, we think of we're slamming like the fucking 2-soul every turn or something like that, you know? So I think it's really interesting when you read things like this from other communities, especially outside of your country. Like, even though we might all use the same words, we all might have different definitions for it, which is like kind of awkward and stuff like that too. So I think that's like, before anyone starts like shedding on other communities or saying weird things of like how dumb people are or something like that, you should take into consideration too that like the definitions we use, especially on Discord and stuff like that, might not be the same definitions those people are working with, right?
Yeah.
So I would love to see. I don't know if like those AG3 people like watch this podcast or not. I'd be really interested in. Actually, I probably should have done this. They have a website, but I'm wondering if they have an article up or something. I'll probably check after this that explains their terminology of choice here and why they chose like these terminologies for deck types and stuff like that. I think that would be like really interesting too, because even like within the States, there's like different terminology like among different play groups, right? Especially ones that don't necessarily go online and interact with all these communities all the time, right?
Yeah, for sure.
That kind of leads into this other topic that I had here, as far as like the best way I can put it is like the terminology we use as a community. Are we like gatekeeping new players from the game by using stuff like that? The reason I bring this up is because I saw a post on Reddit, on the Weiss community subreddit. There was a person there who is only familiar with English and just getting into the game, and they asked, like, I watched the AnimEvo broadcast, and the broadcasters constantly said JC, JC, but I don't know what JC is. Can someone explain it to me? And then when I read that, I was like, I think if I had a little bit more sleep and wasn't really wanting to blow my brains out after casting like 20 hours of Weiss or whatever, I probably would have made a little bit more effort to explain effects as they come into play, or like whenever we name something. But like, I think as a community, we can do a better job of like, especially if you're broadcasting something, a better job of like explaining these things to players. So like, when it comes up the first time or something, you like, oh, this is a JC. It's an effect that when a card gets front attacked, you can pay 1 and sack this card to bounce that card that's getting front attacked back to your hand to like remove it from battle. And then like you just say stuff like that occasionally, and then like those players will learn as it goes. But outside of like broadcasting this stuff, do you think like the community is like really hard stuck on like making these terminologies? Because obviously Bushiroad themselves doesn't. Like Magic will come up with names, and then people will just use those names because like in MTG they'll have like their own names like Scry and stuff like that, which sometimes we steal from other card games as the effect. Do you think the community is like in a way hurting itself by like creating these definitions and just like kind of gatekeeping people out of understanding the conversations?
I feel like a lot of the times... Go ahead, Carmi. Go first.
No. You can go first. Go ahead.
So I feel like a lot of the times the definitions are really just made as like just as a keyword, more or less. Same in Magic, just for convenience's sake, because it really sucks saying every single time, pitch a card, look at 4, when you can just say Azusa or Akatsuki,
And I think that's part of the problem, because we don't have keywords.
Yeah.
Playing a card game without keywords and shorthand, it's almost impossible to finish a game by time if you are reading every effect to your opponent. And you can't expect everyone, even at any level of a tournament, to know every card that you're playing down. So then, because Weiss, where everything is locked to set, we do have like sameness set to set. So by shorthanding those effects, by giving them keywords, like the same as Scry or Surveil or whatever we want to use, Blink, like that's all sort of in service of just like finishing the game by time.
Yeah.
Because Weiss is a game where you got to finish. Like the game is naturally a game that could go on forever. So the game's got to get there, and you got to not waste any time as you're playing. And like that's an easy way to cut time, which is why the shorthand catches on. I wouldn't call it gatekeepy. I think that we as a community need to publish the jargon dictionary more publicly. That needs to be more. That needs to be like at the top of like things you learn. It's like the how to play videos, whichever one you want to watch, and then right under that is jargon dictionary. Like you gotta read that stuff, because people say, because the other big thing about the game is this is a game where no one uses the names of the actual cards at all. They use character plus effect. Because if we use the actual name of the cards, we'd be here all day reading English cards. They're 5 miles long. So yeah, it's just like, unfortunately, I think it's a limitation of the game. But we could do a lot better to publish that list. It needs to be right at the top, because it is really important. It's really important.
I do want to say, I think it's Pattywagon has like the thing, a little WordPress blog he runs called like the Weiss Almanac, I think it is.
Yeah.
And I think he did post an article there that has like a lot of definitions of keywords, but it's really tough because once again we get back to this problem where certain communities might not be using the same keyword as like a lot of other people are using, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like once you get deeper in the game, it's like it's a little bit more understanding. So if someone uses a different word, you still understand that it means this. But I think it would be nice if we had like a more community built like dictionary where you can just look up all this jargon and decide.
We do have one. I don't know how upkept it is. The Google Doc is still updated. The Google Sheets.
I've never seen it. So
it's you can find it on the Weiss Schwarz subreddit wiki. Is the main place it's linked, and I believe it's kept updated. It's just that people have a hard time finding it because that's one of the only places it's linked, which is why I think we could do a lot better to have that sort of up there as like, oh, I want to get into the game. What do I do? I'll go watch 3-6 cancels, how to play video, refresh, and go read the jargon dictionary. You'll be good to go, you know? But it's just not mentioned as often. But yeah, that Google Sheets is actually really good. I always shoot that to our scene new players. They'll be like, what do you mean, Ozisa? What do you mean this? What do you mean that? And it's unironically faster to say, hey, go read over the Google Sheet or have the Google Sheet on your phone than ask too many questions, because otherwise we'll be at the shop till midnight and it's a Tuesday.
Yeah. That's definitely, I think, a thing I need to look into and like definitely send people more and make it more aware. Because I myself didn't even know that was there. So something worth throwing out there so the community knows that it's there. Oh wait, there was one thing too I wanted to say. I forgot because we started talking about other stuff, but I did want to respond. Daryl had a message in chat about, are there even combo decks in Weiss earlier? There are actually combo decks in Weiss, but they're like set up to do guaranteed damage 100% of the time, like Disgaea or
Fate Laser.
Yeah, those decks where they're like literally use their resources when you're level 3 to stack 7 cards on top of your deck and deal exactly 7 damage every time. Those are like, I would classify those as combo decks because you're winning out of non-traditional, instead of like attacking like normally and using climax combos or something, you're using a non-traditional way to win through like events or something.
I would call Fate Laser like probably the prototypical idea of a combo deck in Weiss. That's like,
sure.
Like you watch someone pilot the final turn of that deck, and like that's something no other deck is doing. They're just like resting, cards going on top, burn, you die from 3-0. But yeah, I would agree with Kit.
Yeah, because like example, like I guess brought up this guy as well. Like that deck also does something very similar, and like to resolve its effects, they shuffle a bunch of climaxes back into their opponent's deck to like get the resources they need into the hand, and then like poop out their hand to stack all the cards on top of the deck and burn you for like 10 or whatever. So yeah, I think that's like what I would call a combo deck in Weiss for the most part. Though I think traditionally there really isn't anything like combo existing in Neo Standard, at least. In Standard there are combos like that Junkin combo or the rock paper rock paper scissors combo in
Infinite RPS.
Yeah, in Standard. That was I guess discovered by the players in Australia when they had the Standard tournament, because no one plays Standard nowadays. Like Bushiroad doesn't even update the Standard ban list or anything because no one plays that, and they basically don't don't even recognize it as a real format for the most part anymore.
Because I know someone is going to watch this and think this, or as maybe the comment's already been made. Would you call Konosuba Magic a combo deck?
I would say their finisher is definitely a combo because they require, like, their ideal finishing turn requires multiple pieces.
Yeah. Like, I feel like that's the closest in Neo Standard that we get outside of stuff like Fate Laser or something like that.
I think even in that case,
that's like skirting the line.
Yeah, it's very like, skirting the line, like you say. I wouldn't really want to give it the title of a combo deck, but like the way it plays out its final turn kind of feels like it's a combo deck. So
yeah,
I think that's completely understandable.
Just wanted to squeeze that in there because I know that'll come up.
Yeah. Let's see here. All right, moving on to our next topic here. Unless anyone any last words on terminology stuff or anything like that, you guys care to mention?
No, I'm good.
Sounds good.
It's a confusing subject.
Yeah, it's something I think the community just needs to work on better, and especially if, like Carmen said, if that document's out there on the subreddit, I think it needs to be more widespread. People know about it, and we can, as a community, tell people, hey, go to this document. It teaches you everything if you need to look up a word or something. Oh, one thing to mention too, in Japan, they actually use whatever card was either most recently printed with the effect or like the first card ever printed with the effect. They do the same thing as us, where like we say JC or Ricky or whatever. They do the same thing too. They'll just say that this effect is JC, this effect is Ricky or whatever, Yeah. So I
had somebody in Korea actually explain that to me, and it was usually kind of like, as you said, it's either the most recent card or the first card ever printed.
Yeah.
Or the most notable, like the most notable printing of the card.
Like if it was like really popular in a certain deck,
Yeah.
I'm really curious on how Japan handles this, but I don't have like a super like JP informant in Japan that's constantly playing, and like really deep into the JP community. So I don't know. Maybe I'll reach out to some people on Twitter and see how Japan handles it. But yeah, let's just move on to the next topic.
Go DM our boy Rentaro.
Next thing, AnimEvo afterthoughts. So, well, I guess Carmen, as a player, how did you enjoy the tournament?
I had a lot more fun than I thought I was gonna have. The fact that it was all back to back was had its own sort of drawbacks, but I think I preferred it a lot more to WSI because I played in both. WSI had limitations based on just like how many people were playing in it. Everything was being broadcast. Everything was being, there's a lot of people from varying different time zones and things like that. Mm-hmm. So things that was always very hairy for me personally. So being back to back was a lot more enjoyable for me. After like the initial like dropping thing was figured out, everything ran smoothly. After that point, things were very quick. It was kind of cool to recreate the like complaint table in like card games and like other discords. Like you'd all finish your rounds and you'd like slowly file in and be like, "Oh, I got sacked." You're like, "I sacked him," or something like that. Stuff like that. That was really fun. It was fun to do that again, which is something that we really didn't get to do at WSI because it wasn't open entry. It wasn't a big field and stuff like that. It was more directed, and it's a different kind of content, and I think that's still awesome, Mm-hmm. But for me as a competitor, I enjoyed it a lot more because that's the part about the tournaments that I really love, is the whole like social aspect. It was a good facsimile of going to a real tournament, which was sick. I had a great time. I wish I had a round one opponent, though.
That was pretty unlucky.
Hey, Callum made a good run, so he took all the way up there, so...
Yeah. The Bad Beats channel.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Oh,
just
that would be so funny.
Table, man. It's like all group around that. It's like that one corner, man. That one little post in the hall. It's just like everybody's standing there.
You're right. I forget because it's been so long since we've been to a real event.
I haven't been to a tournament. Like, it was cool because it's just like those are the same people. I'm in card games like every day at this point, like hanging out and talking. So It was cool to like play a tournament with the same people, and you'd like file in, file out. Good luck, this, that. It was awesome, really fun.
Yeah, for sure. I think coming from like the organization side of it, organizers and stuff like that. Holy shit! The first 2 rounds or so were the biggest nightmare of my life. I was like so stressed out, and I was like,
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
even know what to do, man. And then like the other admins came in from AnimEvo and stuff, like stepped up and like really pulled us out of the gutters there, because it was like a learning process for everyone. Because for those that aren't aware, AnimEvo is generally a fighting game tournament usually. Where like 99% of like things they do are like fighting game related, so they've never like had to run a Swiss bracket before, and they use Smash.gg, which I've never used myself either. And when we were kind of discussing about it, it's kind of like in Smash.gg, it was like the Swiss pairing software they use or whatever there, or it was like kind of like just thrown in there just to have, and never really like really used a lot, right? So like all of us were learning different things at different times, and like finding out that, oh no, if we set this timer to this amount, like it'll just DQ everyone in 5 minutes and stuff like that. We had to figure out how to go back, drop people and stuff like that from the tournament, and go back and fix results and stuff. And it was definitely a nightmare for like the first 2, maybe 3 rounds of the tournament.
Yeah.
But after a lot of stuff got figured out, oh man, it was so smooth sailing from there, and I was so happy at that point. I like most of the stress was gone and stuff, and I could just focus on running the stream and like commentating a little and updating the bracket as it went on. And then,
like,
go ahead.
For people outside of that, especially like with the software like Smash GG, it's obviously meant, like, Swiss is never meant to be its core use case. It was always meant to be for running like at most round robin pools into double elimination brackets. And the big thing that it has, especially in recent years, is supporting like streaming and live games, and sort of like making that easier for tournament organizers, where they'd be like, send this match to stream, do this, do the other thing. So when all that comes together, and like you have the Swiss stuff, like I know a lot of people were probably upset within those first 2 rounds because there were delays and things like that. That's just sort of how it goes. And like the other big thing is like permissions, right? I'm sure you guys experienced that. The permissions like set in Smash GG is like a nightmare. Like, and you don't want.
I wanted to try to help out, but like me and Dean, for example, didn't have an account, didn't have, like, we just literally couldn't do anything.
Yeah, it's like if you don't, and you don't want to give all your runners admin access, right? Because like that's just bad.
Yeah.
Bad tournament organizer practice. However, that's what Smash GG wants you to do, because their permission set is so all over the place. So that's sort of how it had to go.
Yeah.
It's just sort of the limitations of the software. But
yeah,
now I think learned a lot. So
oh yeah, we learned so much. Definitely, if we decide to ever do a huge online event again like this, we're going to be way more prepared, at least in understanding how to run the Swiss using Smash.gg and things like that. So there shouldn't be this weird like 2-hour break in between the first round and the second round as we scramble to figure out what the hell is going on and how to fix everything. I think that'll be like the biggest learning step, at least for us, to better facilitate big events like this, especially if they're online in the future. I feel the biggest part that really sucks is that I feel bad for all the people that are international players outside of like North America and stuff that aren't used to those time zones, and like we forced them to stay 2 hours extra because we were trying to figure out things on the fly. It really, I'm sure it really hurt those players, but I'm like really thankful that the players from Europe, the players from Australia and stuff, and like I think we've had some from the Philippines or something like that too, like Southeast Asia and stuff like that. Like I'm really happy that all those people showed up. But yeah. What else was there? Oh, no one saw that. I was like, what the heck is in my background? All right. What else about the event was going on? It totally lost my train of thought after that.
You were talking how we had players from everywhere.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I'm just like really thankful that like all the people around the world like that joined the event made it like as amazing as it was, even though it kind of sucked in the beginning. Literally the biggest shout out though is to our boy Hatsu, who fell asleep in top 8, made our day 1 hour less. Thank you.
I think he might have. Shout outs to Hatsu's player skills. I think he might have actually made his way to top 2, and casting 8 standby data live is Man, dude, that deck might be good, but casting that mirror match was
Holy crap!
a
Yeah,
test
Oh,
of
man.
my actual patience.
yeah, I agree. Holy crap! Especially since it was I think Azura is Azura was it Azura?
Yeah, Azure.
Azure. Sorry, I don't know why I said
Azure,
Azure.
yeah.
Azure, and then when they played in Swiss Day 1, and we're like, oh no, it's been like 6 turns and they both passed turn without attacking. Like we're like we understand that this is how the match has to play out, but like this is really bad. And the game went on forever, man. Oh, holy crap. But yeah, as far as like the future for like these events and stuff, I don't know what's going to happen, especially with AnimEvo and stuff. They're rebranding and things like that. I don't know if they're going to continue doing online stuff, but definitely in the future, it'd be really cool to work with them again, especially if they do online again. And maybe even like in-person events, if like somehow we can like swing that or whatever. But that's like an entire different beast.
A grassroots tournament series, man.
Yeah, it would be really, it'd be really cool.
It's really hype.
Yeah, I think the scariest part about doing something in person though is like, can we get people to show up? You know?
Yeah, because for those of you that don't know, Evo is, if you don't follow fighting game and stuff, Evo is always held in Las Vegas, like since the beginning. So, it's a huge event. So it would be like, you know, might be difficult to get a bunch of people out there, but it would be sick.
We'd
it would
be like
awesome.
side tourney to the side tourney in that case.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, Nico, what about you? Like as casting at the event and like working it, how did you feel about the entire thing?
I thought like once we fixed, I think the main issues were just honestly round 1 and round 2. Once we had like the round 3 pairings, after that there was like no other issue. Casting wise, it was fine. Thankfully, we always had fairly interesting games to cast. This is a shout out, but not really a shout out. I guess the Hatsu. I think the only game like in day 1 where I was just like, oh my goodness, why? Was the Data Live mirror match.
The 8 Samurai Data Live mirror match. Yeah, that was.
But even then, I still think we managed to make it work there.
Yeah, for sure. It was really interesting, especially since Dean's always around to try to like drop the hot, spicy takes and stuff like that. It was like somewhat arguing with us about, is this the correct way to actually play out this mirror match and stuff. So I think there was some cool, interesting commentary there. But of course, it's 8 standby Dell mirror match. I was so afraid it was going to be our grand finals too, and it was 2 out of 3, and I was like, please no. Yeah, but yeah, at the end of the day, I'm kind of sad that Hatsu missed out because he fell asleep due to the time zone stuff and being up late. It's just tough. But one thing else to note too is like I think they're all top 8. Like there's like 2 people from like almost every region, right? There was like 2 people from Australia. There was like 2 people from North America. There was 1 player from South America, and we had another player from 1 or 2 players from Europe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like
I forget where the final players, because I know we had 1 South America, we had 2 Australia. I think it was 3 Europe and then 2 North America.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
It was a really good like demographic breakdown, and I was really satisfied with it all.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's anything really else to hit up about AnimEvo itself. Oh yeah, Mocha was from the UK. That's right. Was there anything else you guys want to talk about AnimEvo? I guess not.
No, it was great.
I think just once again, I'm just really grateful that like Daryl grabbed us and let us join the entire AnimEvo crew, and even like let us host this under the AnimEvo name, which was really, really cool. I kind of hope it kind of like showed off this game to some outsiders and stuff like that too, because our stream numbers for the entire event were really good. They were always within like the 100 range or so.
Yeah.
And then the VOD itself is like well over 1,000 or so. And if you've been a member in this like Weiss community for quite a while, you know like if a video got over 500 views, that's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So like the fact that this is getting like 12 to 1,500 views already is like really, really good. And I think that just shows that, especially I guess during this time with like the stuff going on worldwide, but like just having like the broadcast of like these tournaments and stuff out there gets people excited and gets people wanting to watch it. Because that's one thing that English Bushiroad at least doesn't do, is they never really get streaming setups or anything like that. And I know for a little while they try to record the final games, but they always had an issue of like uploading it on YouTube and stuff later on, and then it just never showed up on YouTube. Because there was a few games where I was recorded at tournaments on camera that just never made it to their YouTube channel, and I was like, oh, that kind of sucks. I want to rewatch that game to see how bad of a player I am. but yeah. So I think I'm really happy that the community was really excited for this and stuff like that, and I'm happy that we got like one of these, like kind of Carmen said earlier, like one of these events where it feels almost like you're at a regional itself. You're like banging out game after game after game, and then going to your friends to complain about how you got sacked harder than they got sacked and so forth. Definitely do miss that stuff. But yeah.
I think if I had one criticism, and I don't even think this is like a fixable criticism, I think this is just an imitation or a limitation of like what you can do online, is I noticed we had a lot of players who's like just stream like their camera setup, or like, you know, just their connection may have been poor and stuff, but there's like, considering we're worldwide, there's not too much you can do about it, but it just kind of sucks. We can't really, that may be a criticism levied upon us, but it's not like something we can actually improve on.
Yeah, it's really hard to do anything about that. Like the program we use to stream the matches too, like we pay for that to make sure like there's a good quality connection and everything like that. But like if the people who are playing have bad internet or bad camera, there's nothing we can do about it. Like unfortunately, like like Mocha in top 8 or whatever, he had an issue with his mic, so we had to mute him like all the time, which kind of sucks. But we didn't want that issue to happen on stream and stuff like that. And it's not like we can be like, you have to have a $100 webcam and a $100 mic in order to enter this tournament. That's kind of shitty. It's like forced upon players like that. But I mean, it's kind of like the best we can do and the best we can handle with, especially since this is like a first time event. I mean, if this becomes more of a regular thing, maybe people will spend money into like a better equipment. But you know, I guess that's just for the future. And then we can move on from there. Our final topic tonight is like somewhat of a meme topic because it kind of got brought up. Mr. Anime himself, even though he has declared he hates anime, made this post on the global community. I have the picture saved here for those that had not seen it.
Oh no, this is that.
No.
Oh no.
Yeah. I mean, this is a good
this is a
topic
cursed
to end it
picture.
on.
Don't curse everybody.
I'm cursing
dude.
everyone right now. I have it open.
My wallet hurts. Why?
Yeah.
Why?
There's a big issue with like this game in the Western market. So it's completely understandable that this game is very niche game for the most part. So obviously, niche. Obviously, like the product size out there and the product that's going to stores is not going to be a lot. It's basically whatever like pre-orders come in and maybe a couple extra boxes, right?
Yeah.
Because like brick and mortar stores can't gamble on like, I buy 10 cases of Konosuba or something, but if they don't sell it, that's money they wasted on their investment that could damage their store and like possibly cause issues at financially. And like Weiss is such a niche game that like you don't want to really take those gambles all the time, right? And there's no like real dedicated Weiss stores for the most part that are just like straight up like, our main game is Weiss Schwarz or anything like that. It's usually like a Magic store that sells it on the side or something like that, or even a Vanguard store that sells it on the side because players play it on the side and stuff like that. And so we have this big issue where we have cards like this level 3 Aqua that's like literally at most in Japanese $20 at a store, and honestly you can probably find it for $10 at a store in Japan because they have plentiful product and there's product always being open and people will still have sealed product everywhere. Whereas far as the Western community goes, we have very limited run orders. I make orders through a distributor for every new set comes out, and we have to get our orders in months in advance. Like at least I think minimum is usually a month. Sometimes it's a month and a half before like we even have opportunities to get a lot of pre-orders in or do anything. And then so sometimes some stores are like either forced to take the gamble or not take the gamble at all. And most often than not, these brick and mortar stores are not going to take the gamble of like buying a set of that they don't even know is going to sell or not, right? Whereas like, why would I spend $1,000 extra on Weiss Schwarz cards when I can spend it on Magic cards and I know for a fact that's going to sell, right?
Yeah.
And then we end up with scenarios like this with this level 3 Aqua is $83, and like the scary part is people are actually buying it.
Yeah,
like,
they're actually moving. I think that's the scary part.
That's like the worst part about it all is like, I really like this game because if you pre-order and get into the series right when it drops, the game is fairly cheap to be a part of. Like,
Yeah.
you can get a playset anywhere from.
I'm actually spooked to see slime prices here in a couple months.
You can usually get a playset if you pre-order it anywhere from $300 to $400, like 4 of every card, so you can build whatever you want. But the secondary market for this game is actually absolutely ass, and I don't even know if there's anything as a community we can do to like solve this other than like convince more stores to hold product, and then if there's more product out there, like the price should drop, right? Because the issue here is like the supply and demand side. There's very little supply, but there's still a big enough demand because like Konosuba is a pretty top tier set, so people want it, right?
I mean, it goes. I think
Fade also made an interesting point there. If you saw that in the chat, there was a re-edit set they could have released to address some of these price issues. Because I know Union, I think, is even Ambush Union, which is I think it's a fucking rare, is like what $20 or something.
Yeah, it's
like look at
like that.
An uncommon in Bang Dream Set 1 Toilet. That's like what $35-$40 for one card. That's an uncommon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate that there's just no print run outside of the first one, almost ever. They reprinted Konosuba Set 1 when Konosuba 2 came out. That is the most they ever do over here. And we would have heard long ago if Konosuba 1 and 2 were receiving even limited reprint with Legend of Crimson coming. And like, you need that Aqua. If you're someone who loves Konosuba and wants to play Weiss and wants to play a good set in the game, you need at least 3 of that card, even after the new Union comes out. And so people are going to pay for it. People are going to buy it because a lot of people who play card games, they really do only know like TCG Player, right? They don't know about these Facebook communities and things like that, or are people buying cards from other people, which is a problem in and of itself, is that we have to reach out to like other actual people to find cards. The stuff is so limited. But like when people go to TCG Player and they see the price $83, and there's someone who's used to playing Yu-Gi-Oh or play Modern or Magic, and they just go, "Oh, $80 staple. I need 3 of it. Guess I'm out $240," and they don't have any idea what sort of the scope of the game is when you get into a set when it releases. What you said, $300 to $400, depending on the number of double rares, right? So it's just really unfortunate. There's not much that can be done about it other than be like, Bushiroad, you got to reprint this stuff when you print set 2s, or you're going to create this like ridiculous situation where people are paying $83 for Aqua.
Yeah, I think I want to point out too something in chat. Ian in chat said, technically though, shouldn't supply be very high in general due to all the playset sellers? You would think that, but a really big thing about this game is that since every set in itself is like its own like little ecosystem of cards, a lot of people who buy playsets actually never sell them or get rid of those cards like ever. So
Never.
what happens is as this game grows, we have these old sets like Konosuba where you need these old cards that are really good, and like some new guy comes in and grows the community and we get extra players, but those new players also want those cards. But hey, it's been a year since Konosuba's been printed, so it's like out of stock everywhere. Singles are nowhere to be seen, and if you want this card now, you're gonna have to pay $80 if you want to play the best like level 3 Aqua in the set or some shit like that, right? So like the issue isn't necessarily that like at the pre-order and first day release stuff isn't the issue. It's like the secondary market afterwards, months after a set is released and the set is still relevant enough in the meta to be like considered a really good set, and we bring new community members in. Those new community members are the ones who get screwed over the most. And the worst part about those is like, I don't want like to be like money should gatekeep people out of the game, but there's like a certain point where like it's getting kind of ridiculous. Why is this card that's probably should be $15 to $20, $80 now and selling is like the ridiculous part.
And the sad part is like I think somebody also mentioned it in the chat way earlier before we even started, was like you take a look at the Japanese Aqua, for example, it's like $20, right? So then why the hell is this English one $83?
Yeah. It all comes down to supply. Supply is way too low, and the demand is just as high.
It's unfortunate.
Or back to tire, because Konosuba is more of a threat in the English metagame, so people are wanting even more.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate that like our player base is so spread out. Like we probably generally on the west of the community, like all the Westerners and stuff like that, we probably have a really big community compared to Japan. But the biggest issue is we're all spread out throughout the world, right? So like, there aren't like man, this just goes back again to like stores aren't willing to take the chance of like I'm gonna buy 8 cases of Konosuba even though I only have 1 case pre-ordered at my store because I know it's gonna sell. But in reality, these people have no idea if it's gonna sell, and I don't want to blame Bushiroad or anything either on this, but like I'm wondering if part of the problem too, like every time Weiss might have like its build up in like a store is like, hey, maybe I'll invest a little bit more money into Weiss itself because this community locally is like supporting the game, and they get hit with like a set like Batman Ninja. I hate to bring it up, and they get stuck holding the bag basically, and like they're screwed over, and like they can't invest back into Weiss because I need this money to pay for my store's rent and stuff like that. So obviously, if I have extra money, it's just going to go into like MTG or Yu-Gi-Oh or something because I know that sells, right? As a business owner, because at the end of the day, the business owner's goal is to make a profit for themselves and like keep their store running, right? It's not about servicing the community all the time, even though like we like to say it is sometimes, because there are great store owners out there who like look out after the community and stuff. We have people like Yue who like support the game very deeply and stuff like that. But like not every store can be as gracious and be as invested in this community as like the other big money makers, because at the end of the day, like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, and Magic are like 3 of the big dogs out there as far as it comes for card games, you know.
I mean, the whole thing with old cards being available, I really think it could be rectified a lot by doing exactly what they did for Konosuba 2, which was a limited reprint of Konosuba 1. I mean, God forbid Bunny Girl if we ever get Dreaming Girl. That set is absurd. Like, I didn't even realize it. I said, oh, I don't play Bunny Girl anymore. I'll move the play set, whatever. I go on like some of the sites to look at the cards. It wasn't just JK. I went on SBTCG. I went on TCG Player. God forbid the price on TCG Player. The play set, the base rarity play set, is valued over $800. I'm like, what the heck? This is like Bunny Girl. You know, it's like if a second set comes out, you are just basically going to be stuck with new set cards if they don't decide to reprint, because there's no way people can just like, you know, drop that on. That's like base rarity. That's like absurd. Should never have to pay that much for like a play set. Like, it's just really, really crazy. I hope that something can be done, but I kind of agree with Kit. I don't know if anything can be.
Yeah, I feel like we're kind of like in a really shit position because I don't think they can spend time reprinting sets in English without having the data being like, yeah, it's gonna sell again, you know? Because all English sets basically have been one-off prints. I think there's barely been like a reprint here or there. I would love to see there to be a little bit more reprints occasionally, like down the line, like at least have like 2 waves of printings per set, like one for the initial pre-order release and stuff, and then like maybe like a month or 2 later do another smaller order that shops can rebuy the product again, and then like cut it off there. But that's like way above like our pay grade as players and just as commentators and like, you know, community members. That's something that has to happen internally at Bushiroad, which I don't know if it's being looked at all or anything like that. I don't even know if they pay attention to the secondary market at all. I feel like JP Bushiroad actually looks at the secondary market, because when a new set comes out from a set that was like has a bunch of old sets, they usually reprint some of the effects or even reprint the same named cards as PR cards and release it with that set. Like we've seen that in not Del Segno, DC, Da Capo and stuff like that. They reprinted like Playing in the Creek and stuff at with other boosters and stuff like that, or even reprinted like same effects basically of like drop search effects in other sets, just to like kind of like negate.
Or Madoka.
It's why I started laughing. Is like kids saying that. I'm like, you gotta be careful, because sometimes there's a dark side to that coin where like
you need
they're
to
like,
yourself in
hey,
the thing.
Oh,
yeah.
my bad.
You got the double echo going on.
Oh shoot, yeah, I had to rejoin, so it might have been working. But yeah, it's like you have to be careful with that, like over reprinting too much, because like, while I think Maji Reco Anime is actually like, I slightly turned around on it along with some of the other people who invested in it, to where it's not like a completely awful set, but it's still very much hindered by like a lot of your staples are like reprinted in there. So like you have Ricky, you have Refresh, you have Sack Counter. It's like those are slots, especially like, for example, Ricky was a double R. Those are slots that could have been used for something else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. I know we talked about it internally a little bit. Like, whoever was managing the Monica set went a little trigger happy on reprinting effects, which was like kind of unfortunate for the set.
And there was another double R, because there's instead of a run to center normal suicider, it's a run to center clock suicider. Very cool. That also ate up another double R slot.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that it kind of turned out that way for Monica. I think the set's still good though. I think in English it's gonna be. I think in English it's gonna be way better than it is in JP, because the metas are completely different. In English you don't have to worry about anti-heal as much, but Nico over here laughing.
Well,
I have faith. I have faith.
We haven't had the cast since we haven't had the. Here we go, Dow complaining yet again. We're back. We haven't been on cast since Data Live was announced for the English meta. And I know we just praised Bushiroad at the beginning about how they were doing a good job where there's no erratas, and they're doing a good job with these English exclusive releases. God damn, I hope those English exclusive releases are pretty good, because otherwise people are going to be very upset.
It's like, why the hell would you eat? So the problem with, like, for example, Madoka, right? You could say, it'll be, oh, yeah, it's really fine. Unless you really like Madoka, why in the seven hells would you ever invest in? You have to invest in two sets, by the way, because you got to buy Majima Record game set and you got to buy the anime set. Why the hell would you invest in those two sets, cost yourself even more money for, like, what's probably going to be, like, being generous to Kit here, high B, low A deck, when you could just spend half of that money, get the playset of Data Live, and just be like, got the best deck in the format, fucking best player.
You also need to buy trial decks twice for that set too. There's a trial deck for Majireko Mobage and a trial deck for anime
I
too.
forgot about that too.
Dude. You got to spend. You really do got to spend double the money.
Obligatory fuck Aniplex, by the way. Thank you for shutting down the Madoka mobile game.
Oh yeah, I forgot you got burnt by that
salty,
too.
by the way. Not salty.
I would be too.
Oh man, I'm really excited though. Like Daryl says in chat, like kind of memeing a bit that like Adventure Time is going to be English Psychono. I'm actually excited for those sets though. Like both Mob Psycho and Psychono are looking amazing. Like, well, I guess when you compare it to Batman Ninja, anything looks amazing. But the sets so far have me like pretty hyped to play them, at least, even if I'm not a big fan of those properties. Well, I'm a big fan of Mob Psycho 100. I'm not as big of a fan of Adventure Time. I've seen like some episodes occasionally whenever I see them on TV, and it's like an interesting show. But it's not like a show where I'm like, I'm gonna get into this game because of it. I think one of the big things about at least Adventure Time coming is like, I wonder if it's gonna bring anyone else into the game as well. But I guess that's only time will tell, right?
Mm-hmm.
Any last complaints about the secondary English market or anything like that from you guys? I think we kind of hit everything, right?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I probably should have said this earlier. But we're gonna do some like a little bit of shout outs here, and then if you guys have any questions, you can go on our Discord server, and there is a channel specifically for podcast questions. We're gonna answer questions for those. Oh wait, there's already some here. What is this? Regarding keywords, what do you think about this question? Keyword referring to ability that comes. Accelerate text ability. Oh, this is from Ian.
Yeah, he was talking about the accelerate terminology earlier, I believe.
Oh yeah, and the confusion with like paying a cost and like clocking yourself. It's so weird because specifically accelerate terminology, like how they use it in JP, is like it's an effect that is triggered at a certain phase, right? Whereas like
it's usually like start of climax phase or something.
Yeah, whereas like these other effects like Ricky and stuff are effect as they come into play do it, right? Do we ever see accelerates that activate on play?
No.
I don't think so, right?
No, they're always auto timing.
Yeah.
And like I think I mentioned earlier in the chat, actually, the problem with like even Bushiroad's keywords, right, is they're not very consistent on those keywords. Because like I'm assuming for Magic, you can just do like, you know, perform scry motion twice, whereas, for example, brainstorm, not every single brainstorm is going to have like the same keywords, because you have spammable brainstorm, you have brainstorm for 5, Hell and Goblin Slayer, you have brainstorm for 6, but you can only hit 1, or you can only salvage like 1 character and stuff.
There are events with brainstorm printed on them that are for 3, like warehouse, tornado.
So like, it's kind of why like the keyword thing is, it's like a really difficult subject to approach, right? Because usually when it comes to those keywords, it's consistent across the board. And that's almost like in every single game where if you use that specific keyword, it's always going to do the thing. Whereas here, even for something like, I made the example of accelerate. Certain accelerate effects are like from top of deck, but now that we have Raise of Sulin out, I think some effects are like, accelerate from waiting room, and then you can, I think even some are like, maybe even put it like either top or bottom of clock. So you have all these varying different like things to the keyword, to even like, it doesn't make it like a good enough keyword in that sense. Because it might do like a similar effect, but it just like, it's always a little different, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's really hard because Bushiroad doesn't make it easy.
Yeah.
Which, it's just kind of how the game is.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, or fortunately.
Yeah. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, join our Discord. There's a specific channel to post questions there. We're going to take these questions we have in our supporter channel. These people thank everyone that does support this channel, especially monetarily. It does help our team to like do cool things and spend our time to do the dumb stuff that we do with our content, even though it's all scuffed all the time. But yeah, thank you so much for just like supporting us in general, and even just watching this content. So one of the first questions we got from our supporter Tony here. I think Tony, you're gonna have to clarify this question. I'm gonna read it. Maybe these guys can decipher it better than I can. What are your main considerations for when to go for multiple lethals if your opponent is around 3-3 or 3-4, or do you take a moment to consider 3-5 as well? I don't understand this question at all.
I think I understand what he's trying to say.
Yeah, I think I get it. It's like, okay, so yeah, he's clarifying, attacking 3 times for lethal. So if your opponent's at like 3-3 or 3-4, do you consider your attack order to be as like, I want to go for 3 different instances of 3 or 4, or like, am I going to consider the case where I swing 2, he's at 3-5 or 3-6? How do I kill from that position and stuff like that? And I think the answer to that is that I think it is so highly contextual based on what is on your board, what your effects are, and what is on your opponent's board, that I don't think this is a question where an answer can be generalized.
Well, the thing is, it's not even like, at that point, it's not even your opponent's board, because you have to take into account your opponent's memory state, deck state, stock.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say right after that. Like, there are way too many factors. It can't be generalized. You have to just sort of, I think the only bit of it, like advice or even like thing I could say or give it, thing of what I do is I always, I'm always very conservative of how I sort of approach those, unless like, the game's over and it's my only out to kill my opponent or something. But I think that's typical of most players, is to take that sort of route.
I mean, you can like kind of like run the math in your head, because you can like always present situations, be like, well, okay, if I go for, if I choose to go for this line, I have like, this, like, I'll have like 5 instances of 2 damage. Is that going to be better than like 6 instances of 1 damage? Stuff like that. But it's extremely contextual, and I think we already said it. Yeah.
I think like, I guess this is kind of going against what like you guys are kind of saying, but I think in vein of it all, it's kind of the same thing. I think there are some general rules you can look at when you're going for lethal at the end. The first thing you should look at is when I play this attack order, right? Am I attacking in the lanes that only have one option to attack first, and then I wait till the end for the attack that has more options available to it? Like, for example, like say the last lane, there's a level 1 in it. You don't want to attack level 1 first, because you just shut off options for closing out games. You'd rather attack into the level 3s that you can't side attack, where those level 3s don't let you modulate your damage at all. So you attack those lanes first, and you leave the lanes that have the most modulation options available to you as the last attack, because you don't know what you're triggering at the end of the day, unless you're like some kind of super god or whatever.
Well, you have certain cards.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Like I think Slime has the card that like lets you stack 3 or something.
The king, yeah.
But you want to keep your options open for as long as possible to close out a game. That way, if you get to the end and you did trigger twice on your last 2 attacks, and now they're at 3/6, maybe you don't want to swing for 2. You want to side for 1 instead, because it has a higher chance to stick than the 2, right? That's like one thing to consider when you're like looking at those lanes. And one thing I like to take into consideration too when I look at like these in-game scenarios is that I always try to maximize the number of cancels my opponent must complete in order for them to live, if that makes sense. Without being really dumb, like burning 7 times or something ridiculous, you know. But if like I have the option to like, if I go 2-2-2, but they only need 2 cancels to live, I might consider actually just going 3-3-3. If I have the option to slam a climax or something, and then they suddenly need 3 cancels to live. Sometimes I take that into consideration as well, depending on like the math and like how many climaxes are left in their deck, and what I think I can get away with, you know. I don't know if that's being too risky or something on my end, but that's like something I always try to think about when I want to kill someone, when they're like mid 3s or whatever. Is doing
it's really important. Yeah,
3 instances of lethal better than going like 2-2-2. But yeah, you know. But if I was Ian, I would just know the math already, because Ian's our stat guy, and he would always pick the right line of play. But I think that those are like the general things.
Just
to consider.
trigger win 3 times in a row.
How do I win board? Just trigger win.
those are definitely like the thing, like the generalized things you should think about when going into your finishing turn. After that stuff, it's all comes down to like understanding the game state and the math involved in your attack orders and stuff like that. All right. Next question is from JW Player. Kind of memeing, asking why AnimEvo wasn't top 16. I can tell you why. We talked about it behind the scenes before we made the cut. Originally, we announced it as top 8, and we're almost considering going to like top 16 or something wonky towards the end because of the number of players. And we wanted
but then Kit said he wanted to stream every game.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to stream all of top 8. And if we didn't do top 8 only, I couldn't stream all the games, because screw that. That's a lot of games to get through if we go to top 16.
Doing something other than advertise probably wouldn't have gone over.
Yeah, that too. That's one of the reasons too. Like we had that whole mishap in the last round where these 2 players ended their game at the same exact damage, and we were forced. I don't want to say forced, but like the only correct thing to do.
We set a precedent much earlier in the tournament.
Yeah, like literally round 2 or 3 of the tournament, the same exact scenario happened, and we gave them both a double game loss, because generally that's the ruling that goes, unless it's the top 8 or, you know, like single elimination part of the tournament. So we already made that ruling, and usually, or what should happen at every tournament is once you make a ruling at an event, that rule sticks through the entire event, even if it was ruled incorrectly. Like you have to keep it very consistently. That's why, like, even in the rule books, everything comes down to the head judge, and whatever the head judge says that day goes. End of discussion. Even if it's really dumb and they made a mistake or whatever, you have to abide by those rules for the rest of the day, because those are the rules everyone thinks they're playing under. And so unfortunately that happened there, and we had to give that double game loss. So kind of back into that, like doing anything other than what was advertised just feels kind of scummy in my opinion too. We talked about it some privately right before the cut to top 8, and we just kind of just at the end of the day decided, you know, I advertised this as a cut to top 8. We're going to keep it as a cut to top 8, and we'll just play out this last round and seed everyone properly. And that's kind of like what we decided, unfortunately. I would have, like, normally I'm one complaining also. I'm like, this game should be top 16 because of how it's played, but in this case, I went against my own my own rhetoric, I guess. And then he has one other question that's more serious here. What's your opinion on this Brainstorm loop deck for Madoka that's been seeing play in Japan?
It's aight.
Yeah, it's alright.
It's aight.
This was something that
it's pretty mean, but
it's a
not
really
good.
cool trick the deck has, right? That's about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
It makes that tap 2 brainstorm a lot more stronger than it already was, and I already thought it was a pretty strong brainstorm to begin with. When I read the card, I was like, oh, like the top check timing is really really good because usually the other brainstormers that were tap 1, tap self, brainstorms that had this type effect would only top check at the start of attack phase, right? Or the climax phase, was that it?
It was usually like draw phase or something like really.
I'm pretty sure it was like at the start of attack phase. So the only information you got was what was I going to trigger, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure because I think that was in Revue Starlight and like one other 2 of the sets. So like that extra information there usually didn't really matter and didn't impact the game state that much. But because this one happens at main phase and you get to move the card, it's a lot more impactful. And on top of that, you have this card that also scries on play and then also runs the stock. So like
once you're level 2 or higher, it runs the stock, which lets you can for the brainstorm loop deck, you usually run like 3 or 4 copies of that card. So you're able to brainstorm maybe like 2 or 3 times a turn if you really wanted to get through your deck. And since you have a normal 5-card brainstorm with one of the brainstorms, you get to scry once with one of the other cards. You get to maybe scry again if you have double. And then like you just tap those specific cards down, and then when you're just like, all right, well maybe I hit like 2 on this brainstorm, you can send them to stock, and then if you need to keep brainstorming, you send them to stock, and you just immediately pay them out to tap like new characters on the field.
Yeah. You generally like starting at level 2, that brainstorm enables 6-card brainstorms that cost 0.
Yeah,
is generally how it's seen. So it's a really powerful like combination of effects there, and I was really surprised like when Nico first got his playset. Was like a few days afterwards I was reading all the cards because I was like, I need to read this set because Nico bought it, so I need to pay attention to it because he's going to show up at local someday and beat me with it. And then I saw that brainstorm.
Implying I could beat Kid at locals.
I saw that brainstorm message like, hey, why aren't you playing this brainstorm? It seems kind of nutty. And then shortly after, or like even I think maybe even before I said that to him, like was it Rintaro or someone in Japan posted the list up with that brainstorm and the level 0s that were in the stock. So yeah, I think it's a really cool, cute trick and something kind of unique to Monica for now. So I really like it. It probably helps a lot with the consistency of the deck because I'm sure every deck would love cost 0 brainstorms basically.
Cost 0, like
6
go through 6 brainstorm, yeah.
All right. Oh man, we got some more questions here in the question channel here. Next one from DJ Cream here. Once again, thank you for inviting us to run AnimEvo and stuff. But he asked here, asking from the Bad Beats table, what's the worst deck set you've lost to an attorney? Oh no. I've lost to a lot of garbage. You guys want to answer first, or?
I'll be boring. Assuming this is just official events, like regional and bigger. I haven't been in the scene long enough to lose to anything too atrocious. Not yet. Well, I guess that's not true. Losing to at Worlds, losing to Coin Flip Fate that stung. That stung pretty bad in Worlds finals. That was not a good feeling, especially because it was running the level 1 Minami and not like the Shiro with the 2 soul that is a little bit more aggressive. That felt pretty bad. I guess that's my worst one.
I don't actually think I've lost to anything real. I know Dean has like some horror stories losing to like 2 soul Log Horizon or something, but like in like the context of like super official events, I can't actually think of anything that I was like lost to like a random set or something.
I have the best Bad Beats story about losing to random bullshit.
No boy.
All right. What year was it, dude? This was like 3 years ago or something. I'm in top 4 to be representative of America in Weiss shorts for the JP format. Running hot that day, playing Rewrite, my favorite set at the time. No one else in there was playing Rewrite for some reason except like one other person. I was like, this is like the best deck in the format. Why is no one playing this? And I'm just like rolling over fools, all right? Then it's top 4. I guess got to win one more match, and the other side of the bracket was hella free. If I won, I could have won that game in my sleep. It was so free. I proceed in top 8 the match before. I got called on a missing a trigger timing for my gate because they have this really dumb rule where like if you cover up the gate in stock, you've chosen not to resolve the effect.
Oh, I remember that bad ruling.
Yes. And so I did that and went to resolve the effect, and then I got a judge called for it. And then I was like, God damn it. I can't believe this happened to me. So after that, in my head, I was like, remember to always salvage before you put the trigger away. Remember to
Oh no, you run into Kantai!
No, it's even worse. You think I would be lucky enough just to lose the Kantai and not look as bad? I lost the fucking dog days in top 4. I resolved double 2-2 Chihaya.
Oh
right?
my
And
god.
then immediately hit a gate. Resolved the gate, and the guy had 2 anti-salvages in the back row. The worst part was my friend Kazuma from Southern California. I played like 10 games against him because he loves dog days. And so I knew not to salvage, but because of the match before freaking me out about missing a timing, I ended up salvaging, causing me to lose my 2-2 that I put resources into, forcing me to 3-cost it the same turn I changed into it. And then after that, it was just like all downhill from there. I just ate shit nonstop after that. And I was like, oh my god, I can't believe this happened. And I lost to a matchup that also should have been kind of free because it's fucking dog days. Like with only like 1 or 2 sets. I was just like, how did this happen to me? And after that, it was just over for me. I was so sad after that because I was like, I have
you
this
mentally
tournament.
defeated yourself.
Yeah, I pretty much did. I was like, I have this tournament in the bag. I'm going to represent America at like WGP for JP and everything. This is so easy. And then that blow up happened, and yeah, not very happy about it. But that's definitely like my worst loss at a tournament for sure, no matter what. All right, we have some more here. Let's see, from Joseraph. Is Joseraph 0? What's a card you like but hate in its foil version? Side note: should try and get a Psychono deck or Dow, or should try and get a Psychono deck or a Dow deck. All right, if you're gonna choose between Psychono or Dow, I think you just take Dow, right? Like, even if it's
I think you wait. I think you wait.
The bigger brain play? Yeah.
Yeah,
Honestly,
the bigger brain play is to wait until January.
Yeah,
see what happens.
If you wait till the next ban list, then make your decision. If it was me, I'd pick Psychono because I like Psychono better than Dow as far as the anime goes. But
I like playing Psychono more than I like playing Dow.
That's also true. I think Dow, even if it gets hit, there's just like so many options in the set itself that like if you have a playset of Dow, you're safe.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, but what about you? What about this, guys? Is there a foil version of a card you absolutely hate, but like, or compared to like the non-foil version?
Foil version.
I'm actually in the opposite case right now, to where I'm just like, I want to build with this card. The problem is the non-foil version is just like the ugliest card art I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. But the card is unplayable. Like in a competitive environment, the card sucks. It's unplayable, but it's sold out. The card's $9. I don't know why it's sold out.
I definitely have cards that go the other way too. Like I think the biggest one is the Amelia off finisher in ReZero. The base rarity version of that card is unplayable. You're only allowed to play the triple rare version. I refuse to ever sleeve a base rarity version of the card. I will pay any cost to not play it. It is so ugly. I'll drop a link to like a picture of it in the chat. Like, card is gross looking. But yeah, I don't know if I have any foil ones. Weiss foils in general, unless it's like some really wonky alternate art, like a JP set. I feel like Weiss foils are like always good looking.
I have one. I actually dislike the SP version, and I prefer the non-foil version more. But it kind of got kind of fixed in the re-edit set. But in Konosuba, the PR card that Climax comboed with real explosion magic, the non-foil version, I liked it more because it was like the Chuni looking art from the anime of Megumin, but then the signed version was the light novel art and it was like light novel art that didn't look very good to me, and I was like, dang, I wish I kind of like this like Chuni anime looking one more. So I chose not to foil those cards in my max rarity deck, but now that card's not even in my deck basically anymore, so I'm all set. But yeah, that's like the one card I don't like foil for the art for whatever reason.
Oh, actually, somebody in the chat actually had a. Here's, I guess, a hot take. I actually am not a super big fan of a lot of the Key 20th foils.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I usually like to do on a lot of them. I just prefer base rarity, just because it's easier to explain at local game stores. Just because the base rarity of the card is like just just one of the girls, and then the fucking foil is like, yeah, and their shirt's off now, and you're just like, oh, all right, cool.
Oh yeah. Dumpin' Donuts in chat also says the 3/2 Iris SP for Sneaker Bunko is ugly. That's also true. Unfortunately, I'm still trying to buy 4 SP versions for as cheap as possible. Probably my next JP trip, finish out my max rarity set of Konosuba. All right, we got Mr. Anime Evo champion himself asking questions here in the Discord.
Oh boy,
Kevin.
Kilua, I believe is how it's pronounced. I'm learning, guys. Thoughts about the JP basically 4-deck meta, how most decks that topped JP WGP's second step was mainly Sao, Grisaya, Saikano, and Dal. I think that's like not surprising, right? For the most part?
No.
Yeah, I think going into it, we all kind of saw this outcome happening, right? The format changed
to be expected.
Yeah, the format changed too for WGP, so I'm not sure if the format is having a really huge impact on the representation as well. I mean, that's something we could look at later. Because normally we have like that diversity rule at these WGP events, so there's usually a chance for like some underdog title set to creep into top 16 and then like zoom its way all the way to the top. Calling out to what was it? Daybreak Illusion.
Daybreak Illusion way back in the day.
I mean, I feel like this is like yeah. I mean, unsurprising. As a competitive player, you kind of like when the format is like kind of solved this way, because then you know like what to expect and you're not really blindsided by anything crazy, right? Do you guys like that as like being a competitive player when like the format's like kind of dwindled down if you care about winning to like 3 or 4 sets, like kind of like a rock paper scissors
It is
meta?
easier. It is easier.
It's just a lot more boring.
Yeah,
just because a lot of decks don't have a lot of deviation, and like it depends on what you're trying to get out of the game, right? So if you're just like all about competing and like I want to win, that format's probably really easy for you. Actually, I remember UA 3, it was maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, he made a video talking about the same thing, and I believe he was talking about how the English meta at that point was only 2 decks, and it was like Sword Art and AOT. And he also just kind of came from that professional or like the competitive player mindset of like, this is like a really easy format, and this is what competitive players like, is that they get to practice the same matchups over and over, get really, really good at navigating like some of the crazy scenarios that pop up in those matchups to get themselves an edge over their opponent.
I think to like harp on that a little bit more is like, I like when metas are like that, but I only like it when like they're very player skill intensive. Whereas like some of these metas, when it comes down to like 2 to 3 deck are like rock paper scissors formats, if the decks aren't skill intensive, then I feel like the format is a lot less fun. If that makes sense. When you hit the top tables and you start seeing these either mirrors or like the other like 2 decks in the room that like matter. If both players are just basically AFK doing their own solitaire game and not caring what's across from them, aka what Dal probably does most of the time, is when like
I know you watched that Saikano match.
Skill. That was 100% skill, man. I
agree. I agree. Two Saikano
there was definitely some skill plays in there, but like I'm talking about like where they had a couple turns of like, I slammed my 3 Katos and slammed Gold Bar and attack 3 times, and the opponent was like, I guess I'll do the same thing, sir. The skill, like in those particular games, comes down to, and we saw a little bit of this, obviously, is what happens when I don't have the Katos. How do I navigate the situation when I don't have my combo available to me?
Yeah, I think those situations are the most fun for me when it comes to playing like Weiss and stuff. But it's unfortunately you don't run into that often. And like people like to say like I don't know if I'm kind of like talking out my ass here or whatever, because I played a lot of Magic before I got into Weiss, and like I feel Magic is almost the same way too sometimes, where like sometimes you sit down and you just do the thing and you don't even care if your opponent has an answer to this, because it's like if they have the answer, they have the answer, right? But then sometimes you hit those really fun skill intensive matchups where you're like wait, if I hold this for one more turn and resolve it this way, I'm gonna get more value out of it and outplay him from playing so and so card or whatever, right? Or you play around specific cards. There's not a lot of scenarios in Weiss where you're like, I gotta play around this specific card, right? So like that's like the only shitty part about like Weiss for the most part, is sometimes I feel like there's a lot more scenarios where there's matchups like that where like it doesn't matter what's going on the board, you just do your thing and then someone loses, right? Yeah, there's a very, very low opportunities to show off player skills sometimes. Yep. The last question from Discord here is from Freedom. With 12 R sets becoming more common, do you guys think they might be changing the box as case format? I assume you mean for English, because I think in JP it's already like even with 10 or 12 Rs, you basically still get 2 play sets, right, in a case.
I think with 10 Rs, you're good for the 2 play sets. 12 Rs is where the math can start getting a little wonky.
I think it's like 1.5, or like, and then you're missing a couple Rs or something.
Yeah.
I think JP they're not going to change the format, obviously, but it might be interesting if they do end up changing stuff in English. I don't know if they will or will not in the future.
I doubt they change anything, just in general.
I think one of the big things too is like, even though there's more boxes in a case and there's less booster packs in the boxes themselves, the case is actually more expensive now because of the change. So I don't know if they want to actually necessarily do that for English as well, because I'm sure it would like piss off a lot of people who invest in the game, or at least shops at least. So I don't think there is going to be any change anytime soon. But who knows? We're just like 3 people that don't know anything about about the game outside of playing it. Yeah, I think that is the last question we have. Yep. I guess we'll wrap it up here. Somehow we squeezed out like an hour and 45 minutes of content somehow.
Every week, every time.
Every time. Yeah. Oh yeah. Hold on. Wait. Konosuba sucks and Dao sucks. Okay, we got that in there too.
Yep. Yeah, we got that.
Right.
Yeah.
You guys have any shout outs you want to do before we call it quits here?
Shout outs to my boy Andy for making top 8 with Coach Yusa. Good run.
Oh, yeah.
Had to sneak that in there.
He was definitely an underdog that popped up in there like, ooh, Coach Yusa, that's something different.
Snow Dog underdog.
Snow Dog underdog, yeah. Congratulations to Andy. And just congratulations to everyone in top 8. But just let you all know, we all suck compared to Kevin, the one true Anime Evo champion.
The Anime Evo champion.
The first and probably last Anime Evo Weiss Schwarz champion title.
Yeah.
Damn.
Oh yeah, he gets to retire undefeated forever.
No, we're definitely doing it again.
It's probably going to get rebranded though. That's the problem. That's why.
That's right. We'll get rebranded.
He is the Evo champion for Weiss Schwarz.
Yeah, the Weiss Schwarz Evo champion. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, congrats to all the players.
Yeah,
I wanted to get that in there.
Anything else?
Yeah, shout outs to Sekai Project for finally fucking releasing 9-9 episode 3. Maybe episode 4 we won't have to wait a year and a half for it to release. Here's hoping.
Episode 1.
I think they're already like 40% translated or whatever.
Good.
Yeah, so it will probably get it by I think probably within like 6 months it'll be out. That's what I'm hoping at least. Worst case scenario is I just read it in JP and want to kill myself. What's it called? Yeah, you guys, there's this really cool VM called 9-9. Episode 3 just dropped. Go buy it on Steam.
I think they actually have a sale on it.
Yeah, 30% off.
Like,
I think for each first and second episode has 30% off. And the 18 plus content, if you want to add that back into your stuff, that's a free DLC. So such value.
Oh, I mean, generous, all of us.
Besides that, thank you to everyone who participated in Anime Evo. Thank you to all the admins that helped run Anime Evo and helped us out that day. Especially shout out to Daryl for like reaching out to us when we were kind of memeing on the cast. So like, let's have Weiss at AnimEvo, guys. And then it happened, which was really cool. And it was a great experience to be a part of. And I just hope everyone that was a part of it and watched it and everything like that enjoyed it and stuff like that. I really want to do more big events like that in the future, especially if we're gonna be more willing to do stuff online. It's like a lot easier to just throw stuff together. It's not like the most professional stuff in the world, but I think it's like cool content for the community. And maybe in the future, if something happens down the line and we figure something out, maybe we can have an in-person huge event, which would be really cool. Just got to figure out the logistics and like how to convince people to make it out to a big tournament to play Anime Waifu, the card game, and turn cardboard sideways. That's the only hard part, I think.
Same reason we all go to anything, bragging rights.
You're right, the bigger EP-ness. Thank you. I think with that being said, we're gonna call it good night here, guys. Thanks for coming out and watching. We had I think kind of like I don't know if it's like not a record high, but like a record consistency of around 30, the high 30s, low 40s viewers today for the podcast, which is really cool. So thanks for coming and watching us, guys, to shoot the shit with us and talk about really dumb stuff about anime waifu card games. I think with that, we'll see you guys in the next podcast. Later, everyone.